Good morning, dear students. Today we are going to start the chapter 3 of class 10th, that is metals and non-metals. So let's start the chapter. First of all, the elements. There are about 118 elements known today, and these are arranged in an order of atomic number in the modern periodic table. In the chapter periodic classification of elements, you will study about metals and non-metals and metalloids in detail. So here we are going to discuss about the metals and non-metals, their differences, physical and chemical properties, and a little bit about metallurgy, means how we can extract these metals from the minerals. So, first of all, the examples of metals: iron, zinc, copper, aluminium, etc. And the non-metals: chlorine, nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen, sulfur, etc. Now, apart from these metals and non-metals, some elements also show properties of both metals and non-metals, and these are called as metalloids. And the examples are silicon, arsenic, germanium. Now, this comparison in this table about the physical and chemical properties of metals and non-metals. First, the physical state. Physical means how they appear by a look. By its color, by its shape, by its density, you can determine whether the particular element is a metal or a non-metals. The first property is that the metals are generally solid. Why? Because they have metallic bond between them. But as in science, you see that there are many exceptions. Here also, there is exception in every property of the metal and non-metal. Example of the solid state of metal exception is mercury and gallium. Mercury, it is the only metal which is found as liquid at room temperature. Please note down these exceptions and make a chart of the exceptions, because these exceptions, always these questions are asked in competitive exams and in board exams also, in half or 1 mark question. And the gallium, when we take gallium on the palm or when we handle it, it becomes liquid. So in the other thing, we see that non-metals generally exist as solids and gases except bromine. Solid example of solid non-metals: carbon, phosphorus, and liquid is bromine. And most of the non-metals are found in gaseous forms. The chlorine, oxygen. You can note down here that 11 non-metals are gases and 1 liquid. And except these 11 and 1 non-metals, all other are found in solid state. Now we come to the second property, that is melting and boiling point. Metals generally have high melting and boiling point except gallium and cesium. Gallium, just now I told you that when we take it in our palm, it melts. It has a very low melting and boiling point. Now, if we talk about the non-metals, they have low melting point and boiling point except diamond and graphite. Okay, so I think you are getting my point. The low melting point and boiling point of the non-metals is because of the weak van der Waals forces between their atoms, and the high melting and boiling point of the metals is due to their strong metallic bonds. You must have heard in class 9th about the types of bonds: the covalent bond, electrovalent bond. But here in the metals, the atoms are bonded by the metallic bond, which is quite strong, and it's difficult to loosen this bond. Now, the third property is density. Metals are generally high, means they are dense, they have high density, and non-metals, they have low density. But exceptions, in metals, if we talk about the metals, the exceptions are sodium and potassium, and they can cut easily with a knife. You can note down the exception. This question is also being asked from time to time in the board exams, and the non-metals have low density. Now, malleability and ductility. If you go back in class 8th, you have studied the same chapter with the same title, metals and non-metals. In that chapter, you had studied about the malleability and ductility. What is malleability? First of all, malleability, it is the property of an element in which it can be beaten into thin sheets. Okay? So, and ductility, it is the property of an element in which it can be drawn into thin wires. And the metals, they are malleable and they are ductile, while non-metals, they are non-malleable and non-ductile. Now, examples of ductility metals is gold. It is the most ductile element found. Even if you take 1 gram of gold, you can draw 2 kilometers of wire from that much amount of gold. Other metals which are ductile, highly ductile, you can say, are silver, copper, tungsten. But the exceptions, note down the exceptions here: sodium, potassium, mercury, zinc. And the non-metals are non-ductile except carbon fibers. As you know that carbon is a non-metal, still carbon fibers are drawn from it. Now, malleability, that is beaten into thin sheets. And again, the exceptions are sodium, potassium, mercury, and zinc. Why zinc? We'll get the answer in the next few steps. Okay? So, electrical and thermal conductivity. You know, the thing, anything is conductor, the good conductor of heat and electricity when it has free ions or free electrons to move. Now, the metals are good conductors of heat and electricity, while the non-metals generally they are poor conductor of heat and electricity except graphite. Okay? I hope you are getting my point. If you have any confusion, you may ask me personally. Okay? So, free electrons help to conduct heat and electricity to the metals. Exception is tungsten. You must have seen that in the electric bulb, which we use at our home, has tungsten wire. The filament is made of tungsten. Why? Because if uh, it is heated, then it melts down. Okay? So, to avoid the short circuit, the tungsten is used in the electric bulb. Now, here we see that the except graphite, all the non-metals are generally poor conductors of heat and electricity. Why? Because of its structure. You know that the graphite and diamonds are the two allotropes of carbon. Okay? Here, graphite has free electrons in it. That's why it conducts heat and electricity. The next property is luster. Luster means it has shine of its own. All the metals, they have shine of their own. They have reflecting surface. But one exception is here. It is lead. Lead is not having luster. It is lustrous. And the non-metals do not have luster. Exception is iodine. Exception is diamond, graphite. They are dull in appearance. It means they are non-lustrous. Iodine is shows purple color. Diamond, it has high refractive index. That's why it's used in jewelries. It's a precious thing. Graphite, which we use in our pencil, that you also see, it is shiny in appearance. Now, sonorous sound. Sonorous sound means it gives when we struck it, then it gives a ringing sound. The non-metals, they do not show this property of sonorous. Now, if we compare about the hardness of the metals and non-metals, we'll see that the metals are generally hard, except sodium and potassium, and we discussed that we can easily cut them with a knife. Now, the solid nonmetals are generally soft, except the diamond. So, we talked about the hardness, and diamond is one of the hardest natural occurring substance. You must have studied about it in the GK questions, in the science quiz. Now, we compared the physical properties of the metals and non-metals. Let us discuss about the chemical properties. Okay, one more thing I want to add here in this regards. Brittle. Brittle means when we apply force, it breaks. The metals are hard. They are not brittle. Exception is zinc. Means the metals are not brittle. On if we apply force, it breaks. And the non-metals, the solid non-metals, they are brittle. Exception is graphite, which you use at home with pencils. It easily breaks down, and this is brittle. So the non-metals are brittle and the metals are non-brittle. Okay. Now, chemical properties of metals and non-metals. So here we'll see in this table that how the metals and non-metals react with oxygen, with water, with dilute acids, with salt solutions and with other metals also. What reactions they give. The first example is taken, the first comparison done here between metals and non-metals is the reaction with oxygen. When metal reacts with oxygen, metal oxide is formed. We have taken the example of sodium. When sodium reacts with oxygen, sodium oxide is formed. When aluminium reacts with oxygen, aluminium oxide is formed. The metals form basic oxides, but zinc and aluminium form amphoteric oxides. And what are these amphoteric oxides? Amphoteric oxides are those oxides which show the properties of both acidic and basic oxides. Okay? So, most of the metal oxides are insoluble in water. Some of them dissolve to form alkali. Like sodium oxide dissolves in water and form sodium hydroxide, which is an alkali. Do you remember the difference between the bases and alkali? Those bases which can be dissolved in water are called alkali. Now we come up with the non-metals. The non-metals react with oxygen and form non-metal oxide. Example is carbon gives carbon dioxide with oxygen and sulfur with oxygen produces sulfur dioxide. And these non-metals form acidic oxide. Remember, metal forms basic oxides and non-metals form acidic oxides. Here, you have to note that carbon monoxide and water, these are neutral oxides. They are neither acidic nor basic in nature. Non-metal oxides are soluble in water. They dissolve in water to form acids. You have seen here the reaction. Sulfur dioxide reacts with water and forms H2SO3, that is an acid. Okay. Now what happens when metals react with water? Metal reacts with water to form metal oxides or metal hydroxide and hydrogen gas is released. Okay, the example is when sodium reacts with water, sodium hydroxide and hydrogen gas is produced. Okay, this is an exothermic reaction. Okay, that's why sodium is always kept under kerosene and not in the water. Because if we will do so, then sodium and water will react, and along with sodium hydroxide, hydrogen gas, a large amount of heat will be produced, means that is exothermic reaction. You have studied in chapter 1 the chemical reactions and equations about the exothermic and endothermic reactions. So please go through it again if you have left the chapter 1. Now we come to the non-metals. Non-metals do not react with water, steam to evolve hydrogen gas. It means non-metals do not react with water or even with steam and don't evolve hydrogen gas. Why? Because non-metals cannot give electrons to hydrogen in water so that it can be released as hydrogen gas. Okay? So, metals react with water, produce hydrogen, and heat is released, and non-metals do not react with water, with steam, and do not evolve hydrogen gas. Now, what happens when the metals react with dilute acids? Metal react with acids and form metal salts and hydrogen. What happens when magnesium reacts with hydrochloric acid, and what is formed here? Magnesium chloride and hydrogen gas. It means always hydrogen gas is evolve here with HCl. With dilute acids, first of all, we took the example of hydrochloric acid, and then we go to sulfuric acid. What is the formula of sulfuric acid? It is H2SO4. Now, when sodium reacts with sulfuric acid, Na2SO4 means sodium sulfate is formed and hydrogen gas is released. But here, if we take the example of nitric acid, that is HNO3, metal reacts with HNO3 and hydrogen gas could not be displaced here. Why? Because HNO3, that is nitric acid, is a strong oxidizing agent. Now, the nonmetals do not react with acids to release hydrogen gas. The reason behind this is, kindly note down the reasons. These questions are being asked in the board exams, in the pre-board exams, in your test also. Nonmetals cannot lose electrons and give it to hydrogen ions of acids so that the gas is released. Example is given before you. Manganese reacts with Manganese reacts with nitric acid and form manganese nitrate and gives hydrogen H2 gas from HNO3. Okay. Now reaction with salt solution. When metals react with salt solutions, more reactive metals will displace a less reactive metal from its salt solution. Do you remember? From chapter 1, you have studied the types of reaction. And can you give me the answer? What type of reaction is this? This is displacement reaction. When copper sulfate reacts with zinc, zinc sulfate is formed and copper is released. Okay, so when metals react with salt solution, more reactive metal will displace a less reactive metal from its salt solution. Okay, or non-metals, when non-metals react with salt solution, more reactive non-metal will displace a less reactive non-metal from its salt solution. For example, when sodium bromide reacts with chlorine, what is formed? Sodium chloride and bromine is released. Okay? Here AQ. What is AQ? In the chapter 1 itself you have studied, is it is in aqueous form. Okay? Aqueous form, gaseous form. I need not remind you again and again, but if you have any doubt, you can ask me. And the reaction here, the reaction with chlorine. What happens when metal reacts with chlorine, metal chloride is formed. And this, the bond formed between that particular metal and chlorine is ionic bond. Therefore, the ionic compound is obtained. Ionic compound, as the name suggests, these compounds have the ionic bond between them. That's why they are strong. Example is here. When sodium reacts with chlorine, it gives sodium chloride, that is an ionic compound. Now, the nonmetal reacts with chlorine. The nonmetal chloride is formed, and here covalent bond is formed. Here ionic bond and covalent bond, the two types of bond. I would like to differentiate between the two here. Ionic bond is formed by the transfer of electrons from one element to the other. Here the non-metallic chloride forms covalent bond between them, and the covalent bond is formed by the sharing of electrons. Ionic bond are formed by the transfer of electrons, and here the covalent bond are formed by the sharing of electrons. The example is hydrogen reacts with chlorine and forms hydrochloric acid, HCl. Now, reaction with hydrogen. What happens when the metal reacts with hydrogen? Obviously, metal hydride is formed, and this reaction takes place only for most reactive metals. Now, how will you know about the reactivity? We'll see about the reactivity series in this chapter, and we can determine whether the compound, or sorry, whether the element is most reactive or the least reactive or lies in between. Metals react with hydrogen to form metal hydride, and this reaction takes place only for most reactive elements, metals. The example is sodium react with hydrogen and form sodium hydride. Again, the non-metals react with hydrogen to form hydrides. Example, hydrogen reacts with sulfur and form H2S gas. Okay, this H2S gas is, what is this called? H2S gas. Now we come to the properties of ionic compounds. Why the ionic compounds? This question is very important. It comes mostly in 3 marks in the board exam. The properties of ionic compounds. The first of all, we come to the physical nature. They are solid and hard due to strong force of attraction. As there is strong force of attraction between the atoms, it requires large amount of energy to loosen the bond between them. So they are solid and generally brittle. What is brittle? Brittle means when we put force on them, they get broken. Okay, on applying force, it breaks. Like you have seen the example, sodium chloride. Okay, melting and boiling point. They have high melting and boiling point because a large amount of heat energy is required to break strong ionic attraction or strong ionic bond. Solubility. The ionic compounds are soluble in water and insoluble in kerosene and petrol. Okay, easily soluble in water and insoluble in kerosene and petrol. Now about the conduction of electricity. Ionic compounds in solid state do not conduct electricity. Remember, in solid state. Why? The reason is the ions cannot move due to rigid solid structure. A rigid solid structure, it's not easy to move the ions from one place to another. So there is no conduction of electricity. Electricity cannot be passed through ionic compounds when they are in solid state. Okay, but when we take these ionic compounds in molten state, then what happens? They conduct electricity. Why? Because ions can move freely since the electrostatic forces of attraction between the oppositely charged ions are overcome due to heat. Okay? So, now we come to the occurrence of metals. Where from do we get these metals? Obviously, we get most of the things from the earth crust, from the sea water. Okay? So, we get metals from the earth crust. Okay? You remember in geography, you must have studied about the layers of the earth. The innermost is core, inner core, then outer core, then mantle, then crust. Okay? So, we can say that we get the metals from the minerals. How come? The minerals are the elements or compounds occurring naturally in the earth crust. Okay? They are naturally occurring. And what are ores? Ores are those minerals. Okay? Ores are those minerals that contain very high percentage of a particular metal. Okay? And these metals can be extracted economically on a large scale. Means all those minerals from which metals can be extracted economically and profitably on a large scale are called as ores. For example, from bauxite ore we get aluminium. From hematite ore we get iron. But we cannot get them directly from the ores. We have to follow a number of steps. Several steps are involved for the extraction of these ores. Now, the extraction of metals are based on their reactivity. I told you that the elements are arranged according to their reactive power, their reactivity from least reactive from highest reactive to the lowest reactive. Later in this lesson we will study about it. Now, first of all, the extraction of metals is based on their reactivity. The various steps involved are as follows. Ore is taken and concentration of ore is done, or you can say the enrichment of ore means the impurities which can be removed at this stage are removed and the amount of ore is increased, the amount of metals is tried to enriched in this ore. Now ore and impurities are present here. Here what happens? Impurities are also called as gangue here, which we need to remove at this stage. Then separation depends on difference in the physical or chemical properties of ore and the gangue. अब जो physical and chemical properties है किनकी, हमारे जो metal है यानी कि जो ore है जिस ore से हम वो metal obtain करना चाह रहे हैं and the gangue. Okay? So दोनों की प्रॉपर्टीज पर डिपेंड करता है what way we are going to follow to extract the metal from the ore. Now, we have on the basis of the reactivity, we can divide the metals into three groups. First of all, the metals of high reactivity. The examples are sodium, potassium, magnesium, aluminium, and the metals of medium reactivity, that is zinc, iron, lead, and third one is metals of low reactivity, means they are less reactive. They are mostly found in native state. Still, they have some impurities which we need to improve, because finally the purity is very important. The purity of metals, the purification of metals is very important if we use it in industry or some other purposes. So metals of low reactivity like copper and silver and gold. Now, metals of high reactivity, they are taken in molten state. The ores are taken in molten state and electrolysis is done. And by the electrolysis, by taking by doing the experiment, by doing this at industrial level in the electrolytic cell, we use cathode, anode, and we get the pure metal. And if we talk about the metals of medium reactive, means which the reactivity lies between the highly reactive elements and the low reactive elements, the least reactive elements. The examples are zinc, iron, lead. Here we are talking about the important metals which we are using with wide application in our daily life as well as in industries. So the main metals of medium reactivity here are zinc, iron and lead. Here we can divide them according to their the compounds, compounds they form with the carbon or sulfur. Like carbonate ore, example of zinc carbonate ore, and the other way we are talking about the zinc reacted with sulfur and formed zinc sulfide. Okay, so we treat them in a different manner. The carbonate ores, we are taking here the example of zinc, it can be any other element also. We are taking the example of zinc carbonate. Here calcination process is done. Calcination, the heating the substance in absence of air or heating the element in limited supply of air. Okay, that is calcination. Now the zinc sulfide, it is roasted. This process is called as roasting. Means heating in the presence of air. Abundant amount of air is present and zinc sulfide or the sulfide ores are roasted. So this also comes in 2 marks question. Differentiate between calcination and roasting and give an example of each. Okay. Write this question in detail in your notebook. Then what will we get? After heating, in 2 ways, we'll get the oxides of metal. Now here, reduction to metal is done using carbon. And then the purification of metals is being done by the electrolytic method. Okay. Now, the third type of metals that are least reactive, we are taking the examples of copper and silver, and they are mostly found in the form of sulfide ores. Okay. So here the sulfide ores are roasted. Okay, roasted, done for sulfide ores only. And the last procedure we saw, the same way we get metal oxide and it is reduced by carbon. The process of reduction is done by carbon and we get metal. Still they have some impurities. We have to refine them to get pure metal. Okay, because purity is very important at this point. Okay, it can create havoc, disaster if the metals contain other impurities, impurities in the form of other metals, other non-metals or some other unwanted particles. Here you can see the difference between calcination and roasting. It is done for calcination. C. Calcination, C. Carbonate ores. I used to remember this. Calcination, carbonate and roasting sulfide. Why R and S? Because R and S, they come in alphabet in the same sequence R and S. So calcination is done for carbonate ores and roasting is done for sulfide ores. Heating of ores in absence of oxygen, carbon dioxide gas is released and metal oxide is obtained. Okay. The example is given zinc carbonate when it is heated, forms zinc oxide and carbon dioxide. And roasting is done for sulfide ores. Heating of sulfur ore in presence of oxygen. Okay, heating of sulfide ore in presence of oxygen. Now here the gas form will be carbon dioxide. It is released and metal oxide is formed. In the calcination we also saw in the above table, after the calcination and roasting we will get oxide of metal. Here example was taken, the zinc oxide and carbon dioxide is produced, and here the final product is zinc oxide, again the same, and sulfur dioxide, because we are taking here sulfide ores, that's why we are getting sulfur dioxide. And then refining of metals is done at the final stage, and to obtain pure metal, electrolytic refining of metals is done. Here's the mind map for you, just to summarize the chapter, just to memorize the things in a nutshell. You all have to make notes on your own. It's a request to all the students to make the notes on your own. Take tutorials, note down the teacher's note also, but at your home you go through the textbook, especially the NCERT textbook, and make your own notes. It would be more fruitful for you. Okay, the physical properties mind map here. Before going to write the exam, you can go through the revision of the chapter. Okay, the physical properties means they appear in solid state, they have high melting and boiling point, they have high density, malleable and ductile, good conductor of heat and electricity. Okay, these are metals. Okay, and non-metals, they are solid, liquid and gas. Can you tell me the number of the solid, liquid and gas non-metals? Yes, 11 non-metals are gases and 1 liquid, and that is bromine. This question is being asked in various competitive exams. Means name the liquid non-metal. It is the only liquid non-metals, and except these 11 gases and 1 liquid, all the non-metals occur in solid state, and they are non-malleable and non-ductile. They have low melting point and boiling point. They are poor conductor of heat and electricity. And these were the physical properties. Now we just revise the chemical properties of metals and non-metals. Metals react with oxygen and form metal oxides. Metal react with water and form metal hydroxide. Metal react with dilute acid and form salt and hydrogen. Metal reacts with chlorine and form metal chloride. And the same way metal reacts with hydrogen and forms metal hydrides. The chemical properties of non-metals. Non-metals react with oxygen and form non-metallic oxide. Non-metal reacts with steam. Okay, with steam means does not react with water at normal temperature or at room temperature. Okay, non-metals react with steam and form hydrogen. Non-metal reacts with acid and gives no reaction. The reason we have noted down previously, the non-metals react with chlorine and forms non-metal chloride. That's all for the day. So till then, go through the NCERT book, and if you get any doubt, you can ask me freely. The students of KV CWS Jain Colliery. Thank you. This is Nidhi Singh, PGT Chemistry from Kendriya Vidyalaya CWS Jain Colliery, District Singrauli, Madhya Pradesh. Thank you.